Altus, a once proud nation, was divided by war. The island was split in two. The Altus armed forces under Colonel Akanteros controlled the regions around Ethera and the Altian airport, while the Loyalists controlled the rest of the nation. Though Akanteros had some successes early in the war, he had just been faced with his largest setback in the town of Pyrgos. The colonel's garrison had been under siege for weeks, worn down by steady Loyalist assaults. The garrison's leader, a certain Captain Drakos, had originally been in favor of the coup, but he never wanted to be involved in a drawn-out civil war where brother fought brother. When he found out some of the atrocities men under the colonel's command had committed, and found out that the colonel had personally ordered the execution of another high-ranking officer, he could no longer stand idly by. He ordered his men to stand down, and he invited the Loyalists in Pyrgos. The garrison looked up to him and followed his orders, and just like that, Akanteros had lost the city where he was born. Worst still, the Loyalists even pardoned Drakos and the garrison, allowing them to join their side. Akanteros was furious. He couldn't let this stand. Some of his other, less loyal officers might be encouraged to follow in Pyrgos' lead if he didn't retaliate. The colonel was in luck. Despite their superior numbers, the Loyalists were disorganized and without central leadership. After taking Pyrgos, most of the militiamen had returned to their villages to celebrate, leaving only a token force to protect the city. This gave Akanteros a golden opportunity to retake his home, and he was going to seize it. The Laka defensive line had held well and bled the Western Loyalists dry, freeing up enough manpower for the colonel to launch a two-pronged offensive in the east. Up north, the 1st Mechanized Battalion will launch a full-scale assault on the Loyalists' defensive line, slicing through it and pushing all the way to the town of Paros. While the Loyalists struggle to respond, the AAF's 2nd Company will launch an airborne assault on Pyrgos. The company is composed of a command element, 2 infantry platoons, a Pander 2 infantry fighting vehicle, an aircraft, and a mortar team. They'll be landing on the Pharenaki Cape, securing their LZ, and then pushing on Pyrgos. Once they capture the city, they're to push south, securing the towns of Dorita and Chalkia. And then their job will be to dig in and set up defenses to stop any enemy counterattacks from pushing them back. If everything goes well, the colonel will double his territory in a single day. The soldiers of 2nd Company also had an extra objective that had been kept secret from the other AAF units. They were provided with a list of officers from the Pyrgos garrison that had defected. It was the names of a couple of lieutenants and Captain Drakos. The men named in the list were to be killed on sight, even if they surrendered. If loyalty couldn't keep the AAF officers in line, perhaps fear would instead. The men of 2nd Company had their mission, but war is never predictable, and even the best laid plans crumble under the chaos of battle. If you're the kind of person who thrives in that environment and loves tactical decision-making, then you need to check out Warpath, a strategy game that lets you immerse yourself in battles with realistic terrain, sound, and gorgeous visuals. With over 30 million downloads and a 4.6-star rating on iOS, Warpath lets you build the ultimate armory, customizing over 300 units with 1,000 unique modifications, and allowing you to forge real-life weapon parts to upgrade your arsenal. But brute force alone won't win the war. Like the colonel, you need strategy. Thanks to Warpath's responsive RTS controls, you can use tactical positioning, air support, and flanking maneuvers to outwit your enemies in massive battles. You can employ creative solutions to take out your enemy, by using sniper rifles for instance. And the best part? You're never out of the fight. Rapid recruitment lets you reinforce your troops when they're in the field, and even if you're defeated, you keep all your resources. So, if you're ready to test your courage, tactics, and mettle against brilliant commanders from around the world, download Warpath today on PC or mobile by using my link in the description or by scanning the QR code on the screen. Soon it was 5 a.m., the sun was shining, and the eastern militiamen were sleeping off their hangovers. Akanteros ordered the assaults to begin, while the 1st Mechanized slammed into the eastern line, blasting the Loyalists with overwhelming firepower. 2nd Company began their insertion on Pharenaki. There was only a single transport aircraft available to them, so it would have to do 3 trips to transport the entire company. On its first trip, it would drop off Foxtrot Platoon and the support elements. On its second, it would bring in the company command and Echo Platoon. And then, on its final trip, it would bring the company's vehicles in. The aircraft soon reached the Cape and began its descent. Unfortunately for the AAF, there was a militia garrison present, and upon realizing the aircraft was landing near them, they jumped into action. While members of Foxtrot Platoon dismounted and set up a perimeter, a Loyalist technical rolled up on their landing site and began laying into them. Though it dealt some damage, it was quickly dispatched and blown up. The technical was only the beginning, though. The militia had left their compound and were storming towards the unit. Foxtrot had to split their forces, with half of their men covering their rear and dueling the incoming Loyalists, while the other half sprinted east in an attempt to secure the area. Another militia compound was in their way, though, and if they wanted to control the Cape, they'd need to clear it out. They traded fire with it for a while, receiving lead, but returning it in kind. And, slowly but surely, they cleared out the militia's presence. Soon, the unit's transport was back at the Cape and dropping off Echo Platoon and the company command. The unit shifted all their assets east and began setting up defenses, while they waited for their pilot to return with their vehicles. It wasn't long before their defenses were being put to use. The Loyalists in Pyrgos were alerted of 2nd Company's landing and were scrambling to respond. They'd sent out a call for help to the surrounding villages and launched a counterattack against the company to buy themselves some time. Militia were swarming the unit's defenses. Grenades were being thrown and bullets were flying. A Loyalist vehicle even tried to break their line. Though the militia didn't have much successes along the roads, in other areas they managed to sneak right up to the soldiers, getting the drop on them and forcing them into close-quarter combat. Soon, though, the pilot was back with the unit's vehicles. The militia's assault had died down by this point, so the company commander gave the order to mount up and to move on Pyrgos. Foxtrot took the lead, acting as the company's vanguard. They were rushing straight towards the city, but pushed a bit too far. Foxtrot's platoon was in trouble. The platoon leader and one of his squads had pushed too far forward and were being engaged by static AT positions the Loyalists had rapidly set up. Their vehicles were now in flames, with men dead or burning alive. They fired their own anti-tank at the Loyalist tower that was engaging them to buy themselves some breathing room, but they were in trouble. The rest of the company was soon pulling up behind them.
All units, pull off to the left here.
Oh, we got men on fire, too.
They moved to assist the soldiers on their side of the bridge. But they couldn't risk pushing across, as the Loyalists were watching it with MGs and anti-tank. Instead, the survivors had to pull back, sprinting for safety. The unit couldn't let themselves be stalled here. They needed to push forward into the town itself. The company commander called on his support elements and told them it was their time to shine. While the mortar team began firing at defensive positions in the town, Paladin pushed forward and began engaging targets. Using its autocannon, it annihilated the Loyalists, blowing up their vehicles and ripping the infantry to shreds. It then began engaging their machine guns from afar, eliminating threats to the infantry. Soon, the infantry platoons were back on the move. The militia did its best to suppress them, but the unit's use of smoke was too effective, and the Pander wiped out the bunkers engaging the squads. It wasn't long before Foxtrot pushed with the Pander all the way to the gates of Pyrgos, sparring with the infantry in the city itself. While Foxtrot Platoon engaged the city, Echo Platoon moved south. The company commander's drone operator had spotted Loyalist reinforcements making their way to Pyrgos, so it'd be Echo's job to interdict them. They moved on the southern road, but ran right into militia on their way to reinforce the city. Bullets were whizzing in every direction. Explosions were going off at random, but the men of Echo Platoon stood firm and held their road, killing any militiamen that tried to get past them.
Hold. Valve is over. Fire disposable.
Yep, that's a...
While Echo fought with their reinforcements, Foxtrot and Paladin began moving on Pyrgos.
Oh, that's a grenade.
Roger that.
Without realizing it, they'd also already taken out one of the 3 officers on their list. They'd shot Lieutenant Dukakis from afar. There were only 2 names to go. While the infantry moved from building to building, Paladin advanced down the road. It was engaging infantry in the town when a lucky anti-tank shot from a loyalist hit their pander, destroying it. The crew surprisingly survived, though they were badly wounded. They had to take cover and treat their wounds, out of the fight for now. The assault couldn't stop though, and so Foxtrot pushed in without them. The soldiers sparred with loyalist regulars, taking some casualties, but inflicting far more. Once the southern end of the town was secure, Echo abandoned their defenses and moved north to assist. They split the town with Foxtrot, clearing the eastern half while Foxtrot cleared the west.
We should put a little watchtower.
Oh, that's an HMG.
Whoever got knocked on the head, get over here to me.
Fuck.
It's clear.
Man, you got a man down.
Follow me.
Head while I check everything else out.
No, I've told Saracen to come back in them. My shot is dead, sir. Roger, thanks for that, sir.
There's somebody else in here. I can hear him.
Soldiers from Foxtrot were soon breaching the Loyalists' HQ, where Captain Drakos was holed up.
Hello.
They shot him dead without a second thought. The traitor captain was gone, another name crossed off their list. Pyrgos was almost fully under the company's control. The military base just north of the town wasn't though, as Loyalist regulars had infested it, digging themselves in like ticks. While Foxtrot finished wiping out resistance in the city, Echo was ordered to clear the military base with Paladin and the mortar crew's assistance. The unit's air asset had brought in a new vehicle for them, while the infantry had been clearing the town. First, the mortar team hit the base. They struck the inside with explosives, and used smoke on the outside to cover the infantry's advance. Echo's infantry used the smoke to close in on the base and climb over the walls, while Paladin covered them with its autocannon. Once inside, Echo's squad spread out and began clearing.
This one. He's down.
The fighting was close quarters and bloody.
Hello. Naked horse, cool person's down again.
Loyalist regulars were being gunned down by the dozen, unable to stand up to the unit's ferocity. The Loyalists did manage to get some of their own hits in, though. Some minor casualties aside, nothing could stop the AAF's advance, and soon the entire base was cleared out. Dozens lay dead. Despite this, 2nd Company couldn't find the final lieutenant that was on their kill list among the deceased. Or at least they couldn't, until they found the base's makeshift hospital. The civilian doctor inside had been treating the sick Loyalist soldiers. He begged for their lives, reminding the AAF that these men couldn't fight back, and as such were non-combatants under the laws of war.
They're all non-combatives by the laws of war. I'm a doctor.
He even offered to treat the AAF's wounded, helping stitch up a bullet wound one of the soldiers interrogating him had received during the battle. Soon, though, the soldier's squad leader showed up. He took one look at the sick Loyalists and spotted the final lieutenant on their list.
This man is an officer, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a lieutenant. Why?
One of his men restrained the doctor, and he crossed off the final name.
What are you doing? No!
Pyrgos was now secure. Second Company had performed exceptionally well. Up north, the 1st Mechanized had been just as successful and pushed the Loyalists all the way back to Pyrgos. The company had one last job to do before they could rest. They had to clear out the Loyalists from Derrida and Chalkia so that they could set up a southern defensive line. The company set off and split into 2 groups. Echo Platoon would hit Derrida and wipe out the militia's presence there. Foxtrot, Paladin, and the Mortar Team would meanwhile strike Chalkia, the larger of the 2 towns. Compared to the fighting in Pyrgos, though, these villages were a breeze. The Loyalists were still hungover from their parties the night before, and though they tried their best, they could hardly mount an effective resistance. The biggest threat the company faced was when 2 warrior IFVs from the southern airfield attempted to counterattack Foxtrot and stop the assault on Chalkia. Paladin put an end to their attempt though, wiping them out before they could do any damage. Soon the villages were clear, and another objective was completed. After so much fighting, the soldiers had become numb to the death around them. Some began shooting deceased Loyalists in the head, wanting them to be unrecognizable for their families. These men would likely face incredible challenges in their return to civilian life, but here and now, this brutality was exactly what Colonel Akanteros wanted. He didn't care how many people had to die. He would become the leader of this island, through both blood and iron. Hey, thanks for watching the video. A special thank you to my channel members: Midix Lion, Elzeg Beck, Scout Trooper, Belmon, Flanella, Cretus, Fornicator, Colonel Opball 27, Duransky Firefly, Doc Omar, Brian Bailey, Alec Trakler, Taylor Lowe, and King Jaeger Blackhand. You all help make this possible, so thank you so much for the support. The next video will be out way quicker than this one. I'm sorry I made you guys wait so long. See you then.